Well, a couple weeks ago I just finished listening to Deftones' discography. I still can't believe it will be a while without a new album, but in the meantime I think it's a good time to give them some appreciation. And what a better way to do it than revisiting their whole catalog and ranking every single one of their albums from my least favorite to my absolute favorite, because Deftones are one of those rare cases of a band without a single bad record. I took my time listening to as much as the rest of their discography to be as objective as possible, but then I remember this is a list of how I personally interact with Deftones music, so I don't think I could be objective on this one. What I can be is honest, and trust me when I tell you, you won't like some of my choices, but fuck it, I'll tell you the truth anyway. Yeah, the self-title is not my first choice when it comes to Deftones. Now, don't get me wrong, I still like this record, but when I look at my playlist to see how much I interact with it, I only have 5 out of 11 songs from which I only listen to without skipping. There's just something about this record that never quite grew on me as much as the others did, and although I still respect every single step on Deftones' discography, I don't really see myself listening to the self-titled that often. Favorite song here, however, Needles and Pins. If I had to handpick a single song from this record, that would be it. The only reason is so low on my list is because it didn't really grow on me. Again, don't get me wrong, I enjoy every single time I listen to it, but I don't see myself wanting more once it's done, neither getting the satisfaction I got with other records. It's still a beautiful album, because as I mentioned before, Deftones don't have a single bad record, but my personal approach to it, it hasn't been that fond. My favorite song, however, is the closing track. I really like what they did there, and I hope to listen to more riffs like that in the future. This one is a hit or miss for me because the songs I love from it, I absolutely love. But there also seem to be a lot of fillers, and after several listens, you really start to notice the overall lack of direction on this record. The band was tired and distant when they recorded Saturday Night Wrist, but still, this record gave us some of the greatest songs Deftones have ever released. As for my favorite, that goes to Beware, although Rivière is very close. Ho, but yes, I'm completely serious on this one. It was nice at first, but then it started to sound repetitive to me, almost like they were throwing the same chords song after song, and I digested it too fast. All the songs here go hard and are absolute bangers, but the only ones I never skip are My Own Summer, Be Quiet and Drive, and Head Up. And I rather the acoustic version of Be Quiet and Drive, so even if I do like this record, I have to place it here. Sorry, hardcore Deftones fans. And of course, my favorite song here is My Own Summer.
There's a new story.
Oh yes, I'd rather GORE than Around the Fur. I'll give you a moment to process it. Got over it yet? I know plenty of people despises GORE purely for the mix, but I like it for one single reason: the direction Deftones took here. On this record, they took the leap of faith into math rock I awaited since YOKAN. I hope for them to evolve into a harder sound through experimentation, and they did! I gotta agree, however, on how the mix messes up with the record. But I don't think it ruins it at all. I just think it's too sharp for what Deftones got us used to. Records like White Pony and Diamond Eyes have a great dynamic range, and GORE, it does lack that thickness that we all know and love. But once you pass that barrier, there's a great record awaiting for you. Maybe I just listened to it in a time of my life when I was willing to embrace an experimental sound, but one way or another, I like it precisely for how different it is and for how it doesn't play it safe on any aspect. And my favorite song here is the homonymous GORE. Here we enter the half of their discography I consider impeccable, and we start with a debut that's not afraid of taking things to the limit. The word that comes to my mind to describe Adrenaline is acid. The guitars here have a tone Deftones never replicated afterwards, and I'm still not sure why. It's rusty, it's metallic, and it's abrasive. That without counting the aggressiveness the record itself drowns you in. At the end, Adrenaline is a dark and heavy record with equally heavy bangers and truly memorable tunes. Matter of fact, they are so memorable they turn one of them into Passenger. Just kidding, but this is indeed a magnificent debut that by no means should be overlooked. And my favorite here has to be Engine number 9. Man, watching the live performances of this song with cheese gutturals is pure freaking heaven. I'm so glad I started my Deftones journey on this record, because it showed me what this band is capable of with a clear mind and strong musicianship. I still defend White Pony is the soundtrack for an unmade horror movie. On every corner of this record there's a feeling of you being defenseless against a marauding creature. But this creature is also sexual. It's like a hardcore foreplay that eventually explodes in some of the darkest yet most memorable moments of the band. White Pony is perfect for a warm summer night to just close your eyes, let the record play, and lose yourself in that atmosphere. And it has Pink Maggot, which is my favorite closing track of their whole discography, and also my favorite song from this record. This record and Nell Pintor by Interpol are the greatest examples I can think of a band's rebirth. Diamond Eyes is not only heavy, it's wide, honest, and even revolutionary for me. Its atmosphere builds up all along the way, and it explodes in key moments more in the fashion of a setlist than a tracklist. That's why I can listen to it over and over without getting tired, because it knows exactly how to manage the listener's energy, especially with tracks like Beauty School and Sex Tape, which also happens to be my favorite. The sound of Diamond Eyes is sharp but also deep, thus making it balanced and comfortable despite of how loud it can get sometimes. All in all, a record that in my opinion could only be surpassed by an out-of-this-world experience, which is exactly what Deftones gave us only 2 years after. Did you know Koi no Yokan is Japanese for knowing you'll fall in love with someone you see for the first time? Well, that explains why I love this record since the beginning. This is not only Deftones at their finest, in my opinion, but also at their most atmospheric and cinematic. There is not a single song you can skip on this record without disrupting the overall experience. Each one helps building the momentum of a dark adventure, and we are the protagonists of this story, which happens in the city, in the outskirts, in the stars, and ends up in something I could only describe as a digital jungle. Maybe here there are no evident bangers as much as in other records, but in exchange we have a magnificent album with zero fillers and storytelling like no other Deftones record. Koi no Yokan is seamless for me and a must listen for every music lover. And as if I even need to tell you, my favorite song here is Rosemary. So that was my ranking of every Deftones album. Thank you so much for following me through the journey of discovering Deftones, which has now become one of my favorite bands. This is also the last Deftones related video you'll see in the channel for a while, but I guarantee you it won't be the last. And if you like what you see, I'd recommend you to stay around. There are still a lot of reactions to do and a lot of new bands to discover. Thanks again for being there, which is what matters the most to me. My name is Tony Whitburn, and I'll see you in the next one.